Sounds like he's doing the cha-cha.
All right, you can start at the same place.
Oh.
What's your daddy's full name?
Can't think, brain dumb, inspiration won't come.
Posterity, turn it off.
That's it. That's about it.
Lisa, you did a question. Daniel?
Hey,
Daniel?
you want to hear my
Daniel.
story? Let's see. I was born and raised in Portland, Kansas. I was born May 26, 1926. I was the best anniversary present and birthday present my mom and dad ever had.
We asked for the truth.
I didn't meddle in your business. So, I was born on Mother's birthday and their wedding anniversary. I was the sixth child of 12, and I have 3 older sisters and 2 older brothers, and brothers under me, a baby sister that died in 1940, and 1 other brother was born after that. And we moved from Kansas because the railroad ran out. And Daddy didn't work for the railroad, but my dad was a mechanic and a body and fender man. And his friends told him that there was work in the Quad Cities. So he came up in the spring and worked until September, and work was good, the money was good. He found a house and he moved his family. My big sister Thelma and her husband went from Topeka, came with us. And Daddy started working in East Moline at Warren Sales, and Thelma's husband started working for John Deere. And after that, we just sailed along as teenagers, and then we bought a house in Moline. And I lived in Moline on 2nd Avenue, and my second oldest sister, Wanda, was in California. Her husband, Greer, got lost in the Philippines during the war. So she had a baby, and she got sick. Mother and Dad sent me to California to be with her and help her with the baby. And I went back to school because I had quit school because I kept getting put back every time I moved from one school to the other. I lost credits and had to go back again. So I quit school. So when I went to California, she sent me back to school. And I went to Dorsey High in Los Angeles. And I went to Jefferson and summer school, and I made up all my grades and everything. Came back to Illinois and still didn't have a diploma. So I ended up taking the GED at Rock Island High School. And after I got the GED, I went back to Blackhawk College and almost got an associate. But I didn't. But I took my credits to Western Illinois, and I got a degree through my experience from Western Illinois. So I'm certified as a paraprofessional in the classroom where I worked for 25 or 30 years. I retired from the classroom in 95, and I've been doing volunteer work. But if I go backwards, I met Dee Melvin in September of 1946. And we got married we started dating in March of 47, got engaged in December of 47, and got married in January 25th, 1948. My oldest brother Harold introduced us, and it was a beautiful moonlight night when I met him, and he was a really neat looking guy, and I liked the way he waved his hands. And he still does his hands extra special. But we married, and kids came along 2 years later, and then the next child came along 4 years after that, and we had a real great life. But to tell something about my history of my family, my mother was a beautiful person. She had a fantastic vocabulary and memory. She was, just eloquent with words. She was just a very special lady. And my dad was just the best there ever was. My dad was born in northern Missouri, and his father and mother moved to Kansas, and I think everybody went to Kansas for land. They weren't farmers, but they went to Kansas for land, and there was Indian blood and Dutch blood and French blood on my dad's side of the family. And on my mother's side of the family, there was Dutch blood and African blood. And my mother's father came from Tennessee. He was allowed by his master his freedom, and he could select a wife, and he could bring a child. So they were given a Condessoda wagon, and they came across in the land rush. I don't remember when the land rush was, but it had to be in 18-something. And when they got to Kansas, it was so crowded that he and his wife and his son moved on, and they went all the way into Nebraska. And there was a city established in Nebraska. But they gradually worked back towards Kansas because the land in Kansas was better than the farming land in Nebraska. So my mother's father bought a farm in Brown County, Kansas. And the farmhouse is still there today. He built a farmhouse. He raised his children there. Mother had sisters and brothers. One sister followed the Trail of Tears across the Kansas and Nebraska and died somewhere along the way and is buried somewhere along the way. And her oldest sister lived to be 98 or 99, and my mother lived to be 96. They had a wonderful, wonderful life. You can tell by the things that she always told us, and she passed her history on like I hope that we're passing our history on. And Mother could tell a story that you could just see it. It was great the way she told the story. And there's two stories that I remember that I tried to keep in my mind. There was a cavalry unit, and I can't remember, but they called them Buffalo Soldiers. I can't remember the name of the unit. And they were going to pass close by her farm. And she said they were so excited because it was a black unit of cavalry. And they all went out to the country road to see this cavalry unit drive by. And she said that before you could see them coming, you could feel the earth tremble, for all of the horses were prancing so. And it was early morning, and they came out of the fog, and they had beautiful horses that were just shiny, and the saddles and everything were so well kept. Daniel, please don't touch the camera.
I'm
Okay.
looking.
You can look after a while, okay? In a little while. Okay. So they were waiting there, and she said she could just feel the excitement, and everybody was just hushed, and then you could hear the movement of the horses' saddles and things made a sound, and they had little bells. And she said that she just got chills before it got to her. And when she would tell the story to us, I would get chills because in the history books, you didn't find that kind of history. You found the history as one person wrote it, but you didn't get everybody's history. But Mother gave us her history. It was an oral history. And she had learned from her father and the neighbors and things. And they also passed stories along when they got together. They would share stories, and I can remember sitting, and we had a large house in Kansas, and I can remember the kids sitting in the kitchen while the company and Mother and relatives were in the dining room and the living room, and they would be telling about things that had happened in their lives. And it was just fascinating to me. The other story that she told was how she got married. And I have Mother's wedding invitation, and it says you're invited to the, Aaron Woodson and Phoebe Woodson are inviting you to attend the wedding of their daughter, Cassie May Woodson, to Richard I. Bogus in May the 26th at the country home at sunset. So what happened? It poured down rain. Living in the country, there were several creeks between the town where my daddy lived and the country where mother lived. And her sisters were a bridesmaid. One of her sisters sang. One of them played the piano. Daddy's friend that was to be his best man was also a minister. So they started out from Horton, which was like 10, 15 miles away, but in a country road, and rains soaked the river swell. So Daddy rolled up his pant legs and the best man rolled up his pant legs, and they stood on the seat of the buckboard and forded a creek after they went around way out of their way. And they didn't get to Mother's house at sunset. So they did get there just before midnight, but none of the guests came, and it just so happened that the minister, Daddy's best man, was a minister, so his best man stepped into the minister role, and Mother's sister and family was there, and she got married just before midnight, and I could just picture that because we went to the house and we saw the home. It wasn't sold until after I was about 10 years old. And right here in my house, I have a piece of furniture that my mother's dad had mahogany trees on his farm. And he would cut them and sell them. But when my oldest aunt took over the farm, after my dad died, well, they cut a tree, and her husband, Tip Brooks, made a table for my mother. And the table's there for my mother. And
Want me to try to show it, Grandma?
You can't even see it.
Okay, never mind. We'll try later.
Yeah, you can maybe get it later. But he made it out of the trees on the farm, and that was a very, very special gift to Mother, and she was just so thrilled that he would think of doing something like that for her. I think that's just about the story. At one time, we were all in Kansas. My oldest sisters went to school. Thelma, Wanda, and Carol went to trade schools when I was about 10 years old. And that was also about the same time that my baby sister was born, and she died within 2 months. She had an ear infection that spread to her eyes and lungs and killed her eventually. But they went to trade schools, and by the time I was 10 years old, our family was going different ways. And then by the time I was 15, my oldest brother, Harold, came to Illinois to be with Daddy, and Daddy came back and got us in 1941, and we moved to Illinois, and my two older brothers, Harold and Jim, went to the service, and then Dickie and Raleigh and Donnie and Corky went to the service. So out of 7 brothers, 6 of them went to the service. So the baby Gregory wanted to go to the service, but he had broken an elbow when he was little, and he could not go into the service. But my sisters married and lived. Carol lived in Yakima, Washington, and Wanda lived in Los Angeles, California, and Thelma had moved from Topeka to East Moline with her husband and 2 kids. And we were all separated. And then all of a sudden, Thelma was here, Wanda moved here, Carol moved here. They married local people, and Harold and James and all of them come home from the service, and we were all back in Illinois again until the boys decided to go to California. Dickie and Corky went to California, and Jay stayed in Illinois. Harold and Greg went to New York, and Rollin was a professional serviceman, so he had an Army career until he got Agent Orange. And he came home, and it wasn't 4 years until he had died. But all in all, we had a really, really fantastic life, I think. I think that our life was something that I wouldn't trade for anything. So that's back to the family history. And we just celebrated 50 years of anniversary and had our family together. So this was our first family reunion since Dennis got married. We had, take it back, it's not our first, this is our second. Because we had family reunion with Dennis in California when Daniel was a year old. So this was our second family reunion at our 50-year anniversary. And hopefully we will have another one within the next 2 years. So,
If Denny can get a job.
if Dennis can get a job. Dennis is now doing computer studying to get certified. And he will go back home and pass 2 more tests and get a job. 3 more? 3 more tests. Lisa's being creative at home, and I want the pictures to still come. And I want to keep up with my grandkids.
How old are your grandkids right now?
My grandkids right now are absolutely fantastic. I have a grandson that is 3 years old, will be 4 years old September the 18th. I have a grandson that is 1 year old. Oh, he is, 15 months old. And he's in California. That's number 2 grandson.
He's in Chicago.
He's in Chicago. See? It's tired. I told you, brain young. And I have a granddaughter. My little lumpkin will be 1 year old next month, the 14th of July. Yeah, and I'm looking for that 1 year old picture. But we've had a fantastic, just this month has been really exceptional. Just great. I joined PTA and worked in PTA with my kids. And I hope that my kids will do the same thing, keep up with their kids' schooling. We did all of the things that we thought were important, and Dennis and Lisa have started on that right now because they are going on a vacation trip for the kids as they leave here tonight. So I joined the Elks because I thought it was something that was helpful to the youth, and it was. But when Renee got mono and lost her scholarship, we quit the Elks, and I tell everybody the Elks sent Renee through college, but it was because we quit the Elks, and the money we've been spending in the Elks, we were able to help her get to college. So, if there's anything else you have to ask. What else?
Give me those cards out there.
Oh, well, let me get them.
Can't think of anything else?
I can't think of anything.
I think I've covered everything. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so you turn it off, Grandma?
Oh. The one that worked for a long while.
You have to know the whole story now.
That's great.